Welcome to JHart Modelworks. Update 3 of the Revell 41 Chevy pickup build is just a quick update, mostly focused on the engine. Welcome to my workbench. Let's get started. Okay, so as mentioned in the intro, this update is going to be a quick one and it will mostly be focused on the engine. So the paint callouts in the instructions are boring and they make no sense. So of course I mostly ignored them. One side of the engine block they said should be painted body color. Absolutely no reference photos show these engines in body color. The other half of the block is supposed to be dark gray, so I sprayed the entire block in Tamiya's metallic gray, which was a gorgeous color. The rest of the engine callouts are gloss black for the fan and semi-gloss black or steel for everything else. So we've got our transmission as well as the intake and the exhaust manifold. Those are all done in alclad steel, as is the master cylinder here. So that's an oddly shaped master cylinder, but there's also some brass highlights on the master cylinder with some Vallejo bright brass. The fuel pump, which I don't have glued in just yet, was sprayed in some Mr. Hobby Super Metallic 2 Super Gold with some Vallejo silver for the bottom there. Now, one awesome thing about this engine is that there is a bracket molded in to hold the alternator. Well, it's a generator is what they called them back then. So there's no parts floating in mid-air. There's a bracket there holding them. This is something that every engine should have on it, in my opinion, because it looks so much better than just having an alternator floating around in the middle of nowhere. On the front of the engine, we have our fans and our pulleys. We also have our water pump. Now, the kit's interior contains a heater unit. It's just a standalone heater that sits in the cabin underneath the dashboard. But there weren't points for the heater lines, so I actually went ahead and located them and drilled them out. And I just stubbed in a couple of pieces of 30 gauge hookup wire and just stuck them in there. And that is going to hold some of this 1mm airline tubing that I plan to paint flat black and glue onto these wire stubs. Then I'm just going to run it back to the firewall. Because they'll be painted matte black, you won't actually see the stubs inside, but this is what I'm going to be using for my heater hose. So moving over to this side of the engine, we do have our distributor wired in there, and it does look like a mess, but that's how they are on most of the reference photos that I've seen. And as far as I can tell, that's fairly close to the correct firing order, mostly because the distributor was just way too small to drill correctly. So they're kind of close to the right places on the distributor-ish. I just can't drill it perfect. Now, Chris offered to send me an aftermarket pre-wired distributor, but with it being right underneath the ignition coil there, I really thought it would just be too big. So I just went with the kit distributor. And we do have a coil wire going to the bottom of that coil from somewhat close to the center of that mass of wires. There is also this wire that goes, I don't know if this is an ignition switch or whatnot, but this goes off to the firewall. Seen it in a lot of reference photos, so I put it in there using some braided line from ProTech. There is also an oil check stick down in there. You might barely be able to see it. It's hidden in the mass of spark plug wires. There's the oil dipstick. In theory, it could come out, but I would never get it back in again. So we're just going to leave that back down in there. Had a hard time finding out where to go because in all the reference photos, just like on here, it hides underneath all the spark plug wires. See, I also drilled out and wired the starter here. I added a little Protect bolt head on top of a Detail Masters. It's actually a battery cable connector, but it fit the part to go there. And this is going to go back towards the battery once we actually get everything put into place. I had to look this part up because I had no idea what a downdraft tube was. Apparently in these older engines, this vented excess pressure off from the crankcase. So I'm learning things I never knew I didn't need to know. In modern engines, there's like a PVC valve or something like that that replaces this, but this is also where you would put the oil. As for the valve cover and the oil pan, these two little parts have had more time spent on them than anything else on this engine. They have been stripped and painted 4 times. They're a matte Zero Paints candy red over Gravity Spain's McLaren chrome. McLaren chrome has an enamel black base that you're supposed to wait 2 days to cure. I typically wait 1. Then you spray the chrome. Once the chrome is dried, before you can spray the candy on it, you need to seal it. And you can't use a lacquer or 2K to seal the chrome. So I used Alclad Aqua Gloss, which means another day to dry. Then and only then can you spray the candy red on it. And it needs to go down in super light mist coats. If it even thinks that it may have gone down wet, it will eat through the aqua gloss and destroy the chrome. That happened the first time I tried to paint these 2 parts. The second time I tried to paint these in pretty much 1 day, and nothing was cured. The candy ate through the valve covers, and the oil pan looked good until a June bug flew into my garage and landed on it and walked on it and destroyed the paint. The third attempt, I got the chrome perfectly mirror chrome, like that mirror chrome that is like almost a dark black mirror chrome that you could see yourself in the oil pan chrome, which was cool as far as chrome goes. But when I sprayed the candy parts came out to be about 5 shades too dark to match the air cleaners. So I finally got it right on the 4th try. And I wouldn't even breathe around these parts for a couple of hours until I knew that they were fully dried. But I think all that was worth it because these are awesome looking. I'm playing with the pro settings on the camera, so it's closer. What I'm seeing is a little closer to what you're seeing on camera, but still not quite. There's like just a metal shine that's awesome. Now, before painting these, I did shave off the drain plug, and I replaced the drain plug with a 0.04 inch bolt from Protect. In the right situations, these look fantastic, and drain plugs is definitely one of the right situations for those bolt heads. Also on the valve cover, there's no place to put the oil in. I didn't realize you're supposed to put the oil in over here. But I have seen several reference photos where either the valve cover had been modified or had been replaced with one that had a oil fill cap in it. So I went ahead and drilled it, and I have made a oil fill cap to go in there. It's in the process of being chromed right now, so it's not perfect. That will actually get cut down so that it will just fit in here, but I left it long so that it will fit. That's all scratch built from plastic rod. I also am in the process of chroming the fan This is supposed to be gloss black, but I didn't really think gloss black fit with this engine, so I'm going with the chrome. Those parts are still slightly tacky though, so we're not touching those. Speaking of ProTech, I plan to go with a dual carb setup, and the kit has this for an air cleaner. Yeah, nope. I got a pair of 9-inch Edelbrock air cleaners from ProTech. Now I masked off the tops, and I hit them with 4 coats of the Zero Paints Candy Red as well, and they came out great. They come with some of this filter material, which is really just paper with some black lines drawn in it, but it looks the part enough. And they also have these nice little tri-point wing nuts on them. ProTech is kind enough to give you 2 for each one, because apparently they know people like me will lose them. I can't put the air cleaners on yet though, because I have no carburetors. I had them modified and painted and everything. The dual carburetor part looks like that. And it's got this bar on the top that air cleaner sits on. And it's got this other bar in the middle that I guess is supposed to represent the linkage of the fuel lines or something. I don't know. I carefully cut both of these off. I had cleaned up the carbs. I had points drilled out for some fuel lines. I had metal posts drilled into the tops for those air cleaners to sit on so that they would sit secure and wouldn't fall off. I had painted the intakes in a Mr. Hobby Super Titanium 2 just to give them a little color contrast from the intake manifold. And the carbs themselves were in super silver with some bright brass accents on the fittings. I set them down to scratch build a T-fitting, specifically that T-fitting, for the fuel lines. That's just all plastic rod drilled and glued together. And when I went to just do a test fit on the lines, I never saw the carburetors again. While searching, I did, however, find the other half to the engine for the Porsche 356 that I built with Sean. That little bugger was sitting under the refrigerator. Sadly, however, no carburetors. A very kind person named Jim Kinder from the In Search of Parts and Model Kits Facebook group offered to send me one in the mail. I'm not sure if he's mailed it off yet or not, but thank you very much, Jim. So hopefully once I get the carbs in, I can finish off the engine itself. Other than that, I mostly just fiddled with the battery a bit. The battery itself is this empty, it was just this box, and it was empty. And it's got this little frame on it, but it did not have a top at all. It was just a hollow, empty box. And the instructions say to paint the whole part dark gray, which of course I'm not going to do. So I painted the battery itself in some Stano-Res black primer and then painted it flat black. I then went and chromed the battery bracket. I mean, it's a show truck. Let's make it showy. And then I scratch built the top to the battery with just some sheet plastic, little bits here and there, and some metal wire for the posts. Now the wire from the starter is going to connect here on the positive, and I don't know where the negatives are going to go to just yet. I'm going to do some more research on that. Playing with the camera settings, like I said, to get a little bit better idea on the paint. And here you can see, you get a much better idea on what that paint finish looks like. The standard Samsung camera settings just do not do this justice. But this gets it, in the Pro mode, gets it a lot closer. That gives you a better idea on what the what the candy black chassis is going to look like. So that's about it for progress this week. I've had a pretty busy weekend, so I may skip next week. We'll see. I know my next focus is going to be on the frame and suspension, so I can get ready to get the engine mounted into the frame and move on from there. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Also, feel free to leave comments, feedback, critique, or anything else in the comment section below. I enjoy interacting with all my viewers in the comment section and try to reply to all the comments I receive. If you want to catch future videos, please consider subscribing to my channel and make sure you click the bell notification icon so you can be notified when I upload new videos. As always, thank you for watching, keep modeling, and have a great day.